It's time to focus on the things you need, the things you deserve. You deserve a healthy body, supplements that get you moving and keep you moving, that make you feel good, look good, do good. And they shouldn't contain GMOs, artificial ingredients, or heavy metals, ever. Supplements that are clinically studied, use proven absorption technologies, are designed by scientists, and are ethically sourced and produced. Supplements with everything you need, nothing you don't. You deserve a company that you can trust, that's dedicated to safe manufacturing practices and third-party testing, that ensures the highest quality of effectiveness from extraction of ingredients all the way to the composition of the packaging. Wait a second. You deserve to see the process. You deserve a company led by a CEO with a deep belief in the power of people, dedicated to inspiring entrepreneurs to achieve success. A company with a phytonutrient chemist and expert on natural molecules who is obsessed with human health and has your best interest in mind to design its products. A board comprised of talented doctors from around the world. You deserve to be surrounded by people you trust and look up to. Empowered ambassadors that inspire wellness every day. Leaders who are rooting for you to be the best version of yourself. A community that works hard and plays hard. You deserve to experience adventures that take you around the world, and you deserve to be recognized for your hard work. It's time to get what you deserve. It's time to shift your focus. 3.
Welcome, everybody, from wherever you are to Wellness Wednesday here, the first week in February. We're so glad you're here, and we thank you for joining us. You are in for a very, very special treat this evening. So first of all, my name is Mary Hawk, and I come to you from snowy Spokane, Washington. I have 2 kids in college, and I started 3 in 2023. And I'm so happy to be here. Tonight, we are going to be hearing from our special guest, Dr. Ashley Keays. And let me tell you, it is going to be phenomenal. I'm so excited about this, what she's going to share. I'm a mental health therapist, and she is going to merge some things. So let me tell you a little bit about Dr. Ashley. She comes from Tacoma, Washington, across the state from me. She is a mom of 2 teens and a wife, and she has her own clinic called the Keays Wellness Clinic, where she is an osteopathic doctor, focusing on mental health. So tonight we get to hear from her and hear her expertise. So Dr. Ashley, I want to invite you here, introduce you. Tonight, Dr. Ashley is focusing on, this is the title of her presentation, Science-Backed Solutions, Adding Nutraceuticals to Optimize Mental Wellness. So that is a bombshell of a topic, right? So Dr. Ashley, I want to check in with you. And, as a therapist, I'm very curious to hear what prompted you to merge nutraceuticals and mental wellness as a topic for discussion.
Thanks, Mary. It's always so fun to be on this with you. And hi, everybody else, too. It's fun to be all with you guys all again. So, when I was in medical school 20 years ago, really, we didn't think about nutraceuticals. We used medications. But there is a huge part of the population that don't respond well to medications. Side effects, sensitivities. But the other part is we have learned so much, and there are so many more contributing factors now that I'm going to touch on as to what is causing depression, some evolving theories where medications don't really help those contributing factors, that nutraceuticals really make much more of an impact. And I have found adding those nutraceuticals make a huge, huge impact rather than just using medications. So,
That is so fascinating. And I
mhm.
can't wait to hear the details of what you're going to share. Um,
Yeah,
it's always good to be on here with you too. Also,
thank you.
to everyone, stay tuned. After Dr. Ashley is done, we have some testimonials from real people who use the products and want to share with you how they have been impacted. So stay through the whole time. All right, Dr. Ashley, take it away.
All right. That a lot of people aren't aware of about these newer theories that lead to poor mental health. If you know somebody who you believe would really benefit from hearing about the background of depression or alternative ways to treat mental health diagnoses, pull out your phone, text them, tell them to hop on. It's sparkglobalzoom.com. Um, so I have a lot to cover in a very short period of time. So hold on to your seats because I'm going to just give you tons of information. Um, and as I give you this science-backed solutions with adding nutraceuticals to optimize mental health, I want you just to sit and absorb it. So what is depression? What causes depression? Traditionally, we have blamed depression on low levels of neurotransmitters, serotonin, dopamine, norepinephrine. However, we recently have found that there are these evolving theories that include other contributing factors that you see in this slide. Reduced BDNF. This is like fertilizer for the brain. And this encourages neuroplasticity, which I'm going to talk about in just a little bit. Or there's chronic inflammation, or obesity and metabolic dysfunction, or intestinal dysbiosis, which is basically just kind of a messed up microbiome in the gut, or increased free radicals that are from oxidative stress. It is believed that all of these things contribute to poor mental health. And it's not just usually one, it's multiple things. So, to understand what happens with mental health, we need to have a good understanding of a properly functioning brain and the cells within it, which are called neurons. So let's look at a neuron here. And as we look, a properly functioning neuron has adequate neurotransmitters. So these are just neurochemicals. They can be any number, but there's plenty of them if they're adequately released. This is a cell here. This is a cell here. And what we find is these neurotransmitters are released and they have to find their proper receptor. And these are basically synaptic proteins. So we find there's plenty of proteins, there's lots of strong synapses, the function is adequate. We've got plenty of these, in this example, it's BDNF, plenty that's being released. And I want you to notice here, this is really important. This is a nerve, and there's lots and lots of synapses along the nerve. So this is a properly functioning nerve, and this is healthy. A dysfunctional neuron in mental health is just the opposite of all of that. Look at how few neurotransmitters or lower amount of BDNF there is, fewer proteins. It is not functioning as well. It has very poor strength. And there are very few synapses, which as a result, we see less neurotransmitter activity, and then that results in more depressive symptoms. So let's look at BDNF and reduced neuroplasticity. So BDNF is brain-derived neurotropic factor. So this is a really, really important protein. It's, like I said, fertilizer for the brain. Plays an important role in neuronal survival, growth. It is a neurotransmitter modulator, so it participates in neuroplasticity, which I'm going to talk about in just a second, and it's essential in mood, learning, memory. We've got a ton of this when we're children because we need it, because our brains are changing, nerves are growing and forever differentiating. As we develop, we have less and less and less of it. And if we develop depression or another mental health diagnosis, we get even less of it. BDNF is also a promoter of something called neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity is basically the brain's ability to organize itself and reorganize itself. And it is the ability for it to reform new neural connections, which is really important when you have disease or when you have brain injury. So we need to be able to do that so it can properly function and it can properly and effectively continue to do what it needs to do around like depression, for example. You need a lot of BDNF in order to have effective neuroplasticity. Now, there's different ways to increase your BDNF. Exercise is one, but there's also phytonutrients that you can take that can help increase it. There's different foods that you can eat, and we'll get into that in just a little bit. Okay. Let's talk about chronic inflammation. Chronic inflammation seems to be at the core of all disease. And mental health is not an exception to that at all. So if we look at our elevated inflammatory markers here, IL-1 and IL-6 happen to be inflammatory markers. And here they were looking in the cerebrospinal fluid. I want you to remember these IL-1 and IL-6 for later, because these are going to be very important later in the presentation. Look at how much higher they are in depressed patients than in the healthy controls or the healthy population. Here, look at these are our healthy patients, and look at in a patient who has schizophrenia, look at how much higher the IL-6 is. And in a patients with depression, look at how much higher they are. So this tells us that when we compare healthy patients with mental health diagnoses, there's far more inflammatory substances, and it is inflammation that is a contributing factor in some way to these diagnoses. Oleski is a researcher who found a very, very strong correlation to depressed symptoms in patients. Notably, poor self-esteem, guilt, suicidal thoughts, sadness, fatigue, poor concentration. So we see that there are higher inflammatory markers with patients that had those specific symptoms. Again, inflammation, and depressive symptoms. Here we're looking at the effects of inflammation on mental health. So in depressed patients, we often see dopamine is decreased. Okay, what does dopamine do? Dopamine is released when we experience pleasurable activities, such as eating something we really like, having sex, achieving goals. This release reinforces those behaviors and motivates us to seek those things out again so that we'll continue to do them and we'll repeat those behaviors. When we have decreased dopamine, then we often experience something called like anhedonia, which basically means not enjoying things we used to like to do, like hobbies. We have a lack of interest in things. We lose interest in sex. We lose interest in eating those delicious meals. Remember, those reward-like behaviors. We also see that inflammation increases glutamate. Now, glutamate might be a neurotransmitter that you're not familiar with. Glutamate is one of the most abundant neurotransmitters in the brain, and it is an excitatory neurotransmitter. So what does glutamate do? Glutamate acts as a primary excitatory neurotransmitter, meaning it sends signals to stimulate other neurons, plays a crucial role in the function of learning, memory, cognition, mood regulation. Wow, that sounds really great, right? I want lots of that, right? Well, the brain really is a very balanced, intricate system. So too much or too little really throws the entire process off. So it's kind of like the three little bears, right? We want just the right amount. So too much glutamate causes increased sensitivity to negative stimuli, anxiety, increased fear to threats, hyperstimulation of the whole central nervous system. So we really want to make sure that we have just the right amount of each of the neurotransmitters. Okay, let's look at the last three, and we're going to look at these last three by way of the biobehavioral response model. This model kind of demonstrates our social environment, how childhood trauma can affect behavior, as well as we also can see how the interplay of oxidative stress and how the metabolic dysfunction and how the gut biome is so important in how they can cause those long-term penalties of anxiety and depression, and how we could see early aging, or we can also see early mortality. Okay, let's get to the good stuff. Let's get to treatment. Treating mental health. Traditionally, we saw medication management. So this was back, like I referred to 20 plus years ago when I went to medical school. We really just used medications, and medications, pretty much the concept was it altered those neurotransmitters that we talked about by increasing the level of the neurotransmitters, the serotonin, the norepinephrine, the dopamine, that enhanced that communication between those two cells I showed you that helps kind of stabilize mood and improve that emotional regulation. Now we have all these different options, different mechanisms by which we can have similar effect. So one of them is something called transcranial magnetic stimulation, or TMS. So this is something this is actually my specialty. And if you haven't heard of TMS, and you know of somebody who really suffers from depression, this is a pretty amazing modality. TMS is very similar to the technology similar to MRI in that it's a magnetic pulse, and it kind of activates or suppresses the brain activity. It's an electromagnetic coil that we position in specific places on the head, depending on the protocol that we use. And it will go ahead and it will stimulate those neurons because it's a positive and negative charge, and neurons are positively and negatively charged. And we treat the patients 36 treatments, and we have found that when we treat them, there is a meaningful improvement with depressive symptoms. It's pretty incredible. Patients can come in, be treated, and leave, drive on their own, and it's pretty amazing. So here's some of the data that we see. The pre and post data showing the lower the number, the better the patient feels in terms of symptom relief. And so we've seen just really, really incredible results. This just demonstrates the depolarization of the coil and how it activates the neuron to release the neurochemicals, and basically causes the release of those neurotransmitters. Here we see how it actually depolarizes the neurons, and it affects the entire brain. And here we see the mood circuits and how it actually affects the deep areas of the brain. Neurotransmitters are modulated by TMS. We see serotonin, dopamine, norepinephrine, as well as glutamate and substance P, which is a pain transmitter. And so it really affects all of those neurotransmitters that are so important. So let's look at what contributes to some of these factors, because in order for us to answer the question of what other things can we do to help manage depression, we need to look at how all the factors are associated. And if we can then reverse some of these contributing factors or control them, we will see improvement. So, for example, the sources of inflammation, if we can identify them and we can actually have some meaningful improvement, then we'll see improvement in depression. For example, we know that increased inflammation can be a result of chronic infection. It can be due to disordered sleep. It can be due to poor eating or psychological stress or gut dysbiosis. There is a huge correlation, and I found this very interesting when I learned this, between adipocytes, which are basically fat cells, and the fact that they release inflammatory mediators, such as that IL-6. Remember, we talked about IL-6 and IL-1, and we see that when there are actually lean fat cells that aren't so bad, but those fluffy fat cells that are around the abdomen that we're always saying are the ones that are not good to have, they actually give off IL-6 and TNF, which is tumor necrosis factor, which is also an inflammatory mediator. And when those give off these mediators, that actually causes a further response by the liver, which causes our CRP to be elevated. CRP is also another inflammatory response. So, we've already heard that there's a correlation between inflammation and depressive symptoms. So it doesn't take a lot to make that jump that we need to get rid of those fluffy fat cells to help depression. There's a lot that we do to lose weight, right? Fad diets, diet pills, wrapping ourselves in plastic wrap. I might be dating myself, but does anybody remember from like the 1980s when people did that? Well, in this day and age, we're using different things like GLP-1, or you may know it as Ozempic or Wegovy or semaglutide or tirzepatide. These are those GLP-1 receptor agonists. And what those do is those actually help regulate blood sugar, and they help us use the glucagon appropriately and regulate our insulin appropriately, and then ultimately help us lose weight. GLP-1 naturally resides, we produce it and it resides in our gut. And if we can actually naturally produce greater amounts of it, we will have the same effect without giving ourselves an injection. And so this study that was done with these 19 individuals who had mental health diagnoses, they were given GLP-1, and we found that they had depression or bipolar disorder, and they also had some impaired executive function. And when they were given the GLP-1, it actually improved their cognitive function significantly. Now, I'm not suggesting that if you have depression that you should go out and go on Ozempic, but it is really an interesting thought and concept that we want to really be thinking about, because I do have some patients who are on semaglutide, and I have seen significant improvements in their depression and their mental wellness. So and we've seen proof of concept right here how they've done better. So, okay, let's talk about supplements. I'm going to start with just a word of caution, because when we look at supplements, for anybody who might be new to 3, supplements really, it's the wild, wild west out there with supplements. And if you have a provider or somebody who might suggest supplements, there is a study that was done November 2023 that I'm sorry, it was November 2018, and it showed that 84% of supplements did not contain the amount or the actual ingredients that the packaging claimed was in there. 40% didn't have any of the ingredients claimed, and 12% contained undeclared ingredients. So I really caution people, because I think these are horrifying results. And so I think you have to be very, very cautious when someone recommends supplements. Um, I I am very confident with three, and the reason is because of their third-party testing. They really provide consumer confidence and assurance that every supplement is carefully formulated with really high quality ingredients, and it's very consistent potency and purity because it's listed in the PDR. Um, there may be something else that three doesn't have that maybe another provider is suggesting. You need to make sure that it has a seal of approval by, in, you know, the NSF, the TGA, or the ISO to ensure its quality. I know that sounds like a whole bunch of alphabet soup, but they are the different governing groups that oversee the quality and purity of supplements. So three has really gone above and beyond to make sure that they have really high quality. And so I think that that's really, really important. They've had third-party testing come in. And one of the studies that they did, which I think is absolutely amazing, which ties into our presentation today, is their epigenetics study. If you aren't familiar with epigenetics, it is basically the study of genes that can be turned on and off, kind of like a light switch. So if you do really healthy things, eating a nutritious diet, doing healthy habits, exercising, you can actually maintain very good epigenetics. So those good genes can be turned on, and you can help inhibit the genes that you don't want on, the poor genes. But if you have a poor diet, if you have a sedentary lifestyle, you don't sleep well, you're exposed to pollution, you lead a very, very stressful life, then that can cause those genetics to switch in the body and become misregulated, which can lead to poor health due to epigenetics. Three did an epigenetic study, and the purpose was they wanted to determine whether the phytonutrients and the nutritional supplements that they have, if those key genes would actually be affected if people took them consistently. And they tested 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different genes. Now, I highlighted the 4 that I think are very, very important in terms of depression. And the results that were shown, they showed a really positive impact on regulating and suppressing certain genes, supporting desired outcomes. Now, if you look at any of these genes, I want all of those things, but I couldn't go through all of them. But if you look at the NF kappa B, which helps the healthy inflammatory status, if you looked at the GLP-1, which remember I told you naturally occurs in the body, and so by promoting that gene, we're going to be really encouraging more GLP-1. BDNF, remember our BDNF, that helps neuroplasticity, it helps healthy cognition, it helps with regenerating those neural connections, and then IL-6. Remember, I mentioned, remember IL-6? That also is healthy inflammatory status. So those four very, very important genes to either be turned on or off. And a third-party team laboratory came in and did official testing on four of the supplements of three. And they went ahead and then reported out the gene expression and which supplements actually helped to make a difference. So, drum roll. Here's the results. And these are mind-boggling to me. But what I can tell you is, having used these with patients, it really is real. I mean, it's amazing. So the IL-6, remember, this is for inflammation, and we want it to be negative because we want to turn down this gene. We don't want IL-6 to be expressed. So it turns down this gene by 1,250%. Holy smokes, that's amazing. So eternal is one of the number one supplements you want to use to help decrease inflammation in order to turn down IL-6. It is excellent, and not just for depression, for any inflammatory process, right? Inflammation's inflammation. So our next inflammatory marker is our NF kappa B. Again, eternal. Revive is not far behind. And then vitalite and collagen. So we're looking at a combination of our different supplements. Let's look at our GLP-1. The combination of taking vitalite and revive, and I have seen this, I absolutely have seen this make a difference. If you take these consistently, it helps promote your own GLP-1 and will help promote weight management. And then the last one is BDNF. 840%. Absolutely amazing. And this is one that I see a huge difference, not just with depression, but with clarity, that brain fog, that executive function issues, people who sometimes have some of that ADD, vitalite makes a big difference. And I found that to be a huge significant difference. So I always like to leave you with some salient points. And so the ones that I want you to remember are some people may need medications for depression. And I definitely use medications. However, I don't want you to forget that there are other things beside just that imbalance in neurotransmitters. Inflammation is a huge one to look at. Decreasing inflammation any way we can. Doing behavioral modification is really important. And really looking at the supplements. BDNF is so important to increase. Decreasing inflammation is very important. And then all of these three supplements can be taken along with any of the medications. There's no contraindication there. But there are definitely some supplements that cannot be taken with medications. And so always make sure that you check with your provider before you go taking any other supplements. So I'm so excited that I got to share this information with you. And I know that we have some testimonials.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ashley. That was incredible. You just summed it up, gave the details, summed it up, and kept giving details and repeating that. So thank you. It's amazing to me how everything works together. Our minds, our bodies, our spirits, they're so connected. And you did a great job of explaining that. So thank you.
Thank you.
We do have 2 testimonials this evening, and the first is going to be Tami DeFord. Is she on?
Hello.
Hi, Tami. So
Hi.
Tami is a full-time nurse in a hospital. So she deals with a lot of patients, and she has 2 teens, and she's a dear friend of mine. And so welcome, Tami. I look forward to hearing what you have to share with us.
Yes, I was just, because of course it's flu season, I was going to just talk about immune right now because I think that has saved me this entire flu season. I actually didn't even get a flu shot this year. I just never got around to it. And I was taking immune, not thinking about it, just daily, whatever, feeling fine. And then as soon as I would see somebody sick in my house, I'm popping an extra one. And honestly, my coworkers are all getting sick for more than a week. My friends are getting so sick, and I'm blown away that I was sick for like maybe 2 days, but I did, as soon as I felt it, it was on a night shift. It was about 3 o'clock in the morning, and I'm like, it kind of just hit me, and I'm like, oh no. But I got home and I popped like 3 of those immune, and it was like overnight, I felt better. I couldn't even believe it. I was like, yes. But my husband takes it, and my daughter actually started taking it because a lot of her friends were getting sick. And not that she takes it on a daily basis. She actually just does it very random. And she got sick, but probably half the time of all of her friends. So I definitely believe in it. I will never ever go without it. It's been phenomenal.
Awesome. Thanks, Tami. I forgot to mention that Tami is from Vancouver. You can hear in her accent. Vancouver.
I have an accent.
Yes, we need to all double up on our immune, right?
Yes.
Well, now we have Diana Lane from Sandy, Utah. She has been in the realty business and consignment business for the past 20 years. And she is currently with 3 and loving it. She's a mom of 5 daughters. And she has a grandbaby that's going to be arriving like any second, actually. So, Diana, we welcome you and can't wait to hear what you want to share with us.
Okay, hey guys. Thank you for having me. And you know what? Did my screen freeze? Did I freeze?
You're a little frozen.
Okay.
A little frozen.
So I was going to share my macular. I have so many stories with 3, but after hearing Dr. Ashley, this is vulnerable for me, but I want to share my depression story. I have never shared it. I know that Tami sees me on TikTok. I share my chronic pain and my macular degeneration. Yes, it helps with all those things. My macular degeneration did improve. My doctor was very surprised. But after listening to this tonight, oh my gosh, you guys, was that powerful? She explained it so well that a 5th grader like me, somebody like me could understand it. And you know what? It really explains why my depression went away. I had been suffering with depression for over 8 years. And I just know that when I started taking the supplements, I was feeling better. I was sleeping, my body was restoring. But when I didn't take the multivitamin pack, the little pack like this, for a while because vitamins always made me sick. So when I started taking the Vitalite, they didn't make me sick. And what was interesting, I'm very ADHD, anybody who knows me. What was interesting is I changed within days. I don't like to overpromise because everyone's different. I also cut out sugar. I also did some other things, but I really changed. My cognitive awareness, my depression, I I was sad all the time and I
Mm.
started becoming happy again. And I am going through a divorce at the time, and my husband, who is a medical doctor, he's an orthopedic surgeon, noticed the change
Mm.
in me. He goes, what are you taking? What are you doing? I go, don't I sound different? Don't I, there's something different about me. And I taught him about the vitamins. And so he started taking them. And that's what brought him and partnered with me in the company with 3. I know I wasn't going to talk about that tonight, but I think it really I don't really talk about it much. I don't want people to know I was depressed for 8 years. A lot of my friends wanted me to get on prescriptions, and I don't like medications. They make me sick. And so when I started taking I was taking the purple pouch, I call it Eternal, like religiously for my chronic pain and other things. And all that went away. Anybody that knows me, but I'll tell you what, Vitalite, when I added it to my regimen, it really, really changed my personality. I became happy. I was sleeping. I was better. And you guys, and I know it's hard because you don't know me before, but you can go ask somebody who knows me. But that's my story. I'm going to share that tonight, because we are talking about that. And I didn't know what it was until Dr. Keays just explained it to us. And I'm sitting there having aha, going, no way. I want this. I'm taking pictures, you guys. I hope everybody watches this video again because she really explained depression. And I had all of those symptoms, and my chronic inflammation caused that depression. And I realized that. And I just hid it for so many people. People thought I was always happy, but I lived alone and I was depressed probably 90% of the time. And now I'm not. And I have to say that I'm a much happier person. And I'm because I am getting my nutrition. But anyway, that's it.
Diana, thank you so much. It's hard to be vulnerable. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah.
Really, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And it's recorded.
It is recorded, and it's beautiful because it gives other people
Yeah.
a chance to look inside and say, maybe I can share my story too. Maybe I
Mhm.
can, maybe there's even people to talk to about it. So thank you so
Yeah.
much for sharing,
Yeah.
Diana and Tammy
Yeah.
and Ashley. You guys, this has been really wonderful. I know I've really enjoyed it and learned a lot, and I hope you have too. And we look forward to seeing you on the next Wellness Wednesday. Stay tuned for more relevant topics. All right. We love you.